And we're live.
Very good. We will now resume our regular council meeting of the Township of Cavan-Monaghan on this Monday, May 16th. There was no report coming back from closed session, so we'll move right into our public meeting. I need a resolution to open the public meeting. Councillor Huntley and Deputy Mayor Graham. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Belch.
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes.
Councillor Huntley.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham.
Yes.
And Councillor Shaw.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Before I get it, go on to the next one, just a question to fellow councillors or staff. Is my voice fading in and out again, or is it better now?
So far, so good.
Fine. Okay. All right. Very good. Item 7.2, report planning 2022-29 Public Works Operations Center zoning bylaw amendment. Ms. Ellis.
Thank you, Mayor McFadden, members of council, staff, and members of the public. Today's public meeting is for property at 1470 County Road 10 in part of Lot 12, Concession 8 of the Cavan Ward. The property is the Township's Public Works Operations Center property. A rezoning is required for this property to permit the construction of a new 7-bay garage on the north side of the property. Currently, the property is zoned institutional, natural linkage, and natural core. Normally, public uses are permitted in all zones within the township zoning bylaw, with the exception of the natural core zone. So the location for the new garage is actually currently zoned natural core. So that's why we require the zoning bylaw amendment that council is considering today. As proposed, the rezoning will change the zoning on the entire property from natural linkage, natural core, and institutional to the institutional exception 4 zone. The institutional exception 4 zone will recognize the location of the existing frame garage on the west side of the property. It will recognize the height of the existing sand dome on the property. It will permit the construction of the new Public Works garage with a minimum setback of 9 meters from the northern property line. It will enshrine in the zoning the requirements that were identified in the buffer enhancement plan prepared by Cambium. And as I said, it will require a minimum interior side yard of 9 meters for the north side. As required by the Planning Act, notice of this application was circulated to members or property owners within 120 meters of the subject property. A sign was posted on the property, and ministries and agencies were also circulated. Through that circulation process, we did hear from Peterborough Public Health and the Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board and Autonomy Conservation that they have no objection to the zoning bylaw amendment. Township staff were circulated. They also indicated that they have no objection to the amendment. We did receive one written objection from an adjacent property owner objecting to the use of the property. Their objection was based on traffic related to the use, the noise, and the environmental implications. So with the new proposed garage at the Public Works Operations Center, staff feel that we're not going to generate additional traffic other than the additional traffic that might be generated from our own parks and facility staff accessing storage in the existing garage. The property is located within the hamlet of Cavan. In the hamlet designation, a variety of land uses are permitted. So that designation did consider that within a hamlet, you will have some residential, commercial, industrial, and community facilities. With the Public Works Operations Center, I know you've dealt with this previously, other locations were considered for this use, and it was determined that the site at 1470 County Road 10 is really the most, is the best site for the construction of the new garage. So while we're somewhat sympathetic to the adjacent landowner, the Public Works facility has been in that location for a long time. Other locations were considered and deemed not suitable. The new garage, which will be the big change to the site, is located on the north side of the property, the farthest away from that property owner to the south that it can be. The township has had prepared the buffer enhancement plan to look at some environmental implications to the wetlands to the north. That buffer enhancement plan will actually, with the implementation of that plan, will improve the the existing situation in terms of impacts to that wetland. So township staff are satisfied that in fact, the application does satisfy the requirements of the provincial policy statement, the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, Peterborough County's official plan, and the Township of Cavan-Monaghan official plan. Information about this application was provided on the township's website, so people were able to see the site plan. They were able to see the planning justification report that was prepared for this application, and they were also able to see the buffer enhancement plan that was provided to support the application. So having said all of that, basically the recommendation for council's consideration today is that you receive and consider all comments related to this zoning bylaw amendment application. And secondly, that bylaw number 2022-33 be approved to amend bylaw number 2018-58 as amended with regard to lands located in part of lot 12, concession 8 of the Cavan Ward, and identified by property assessment roll number 1509 010 030 197.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Any questions or comments from members of council? Seeing none. Okay, I will open it up then to, oh, sorry, Councillor Huntley, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor, to Ms. Ellis. I guess with the question around the increase in traffic, like I understand that this, the operations have been there for a while and probably will continue the same as. But I guess the question around how long will the demolition and reconstruction of the new building take place? Because obviously that will create a different type of traffic flow to that site for a while. So I'm just curious, how long will that go on for?
Ms. Ellis, do you want Mr. Hancock to respond?
Yes, please.
Very good.
To Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Huntley, the staff are working on a tender report on for this site to come forward to council at a later date. The construction time period is about 8 months from start to finish, so it will have a different type of traffic because we will have Hydro One involved, and we will have, of course, a general contractor that will have all the trades coming in. So that will happen over if the tender is approved by council and we get the go ahead, it would happen through to the end of the year into the early part of 2023.
Okay.
Very good. And on the demolition, Mr. Hancock, just for clarity to Councillor Huntley.
The existing building, presently it's been staff's thoughts and recommendations coming forward to council at a later date would be the existing building will remain with it being used for storage for Parks and Rec primarily because they lack room for storage and for public works. So we would work jointly with Parks and Rec on that. So the building would remain, but the traffic primarily will be from the new building because that's where our equipment and manpower would be.
Very good. Councillor Huntley, answer both parts of your question.
Perfectly. Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions, comments from members of council before I open it up to the public? Okay, seeing none. Madam Clerk, I'm just going to look on the participant list under attendees. Does not. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I believe these are our presentations and potential delegation. If there's any comments that Mr. Duguay would like to add. So no, I don't see anybody.
You've summed that up very articulately. I was jumping to the same conclusion and it would appear that's so. So I will move then to the next section, which is back to council for consideration of the report. Council, Deputy Mayor Graham.
Yeah, I would move the report and accept the recommendations. The reconstruction of the yard and with the expansion of the community is long overdue, so sooner the better.
Very good. Motion to receive the report, accept the recommendation, and Councillor Shaw, second. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Shaw,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden,
Yes.
and Councillor Huntley.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Can I get a resolution to close the public meeting? Deputy Mayor Graham, Councillor Huntley, Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Shaw,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
and Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is approved. We will now move into our presentation. Item 8.1, Carla Buckborough and Linda Allaire, Library Board, actual to budget January to March. Madam Clerk, I'll leave it with you to welcome them in.
I believe, yes, they have both
There we go.
joined us, Mayor McFadden.
Excellent. I will turn it over to both of you, Carla and Linda. I don't know who wishes to start.
Will Mayor McFadden. This is just a reminder that the Township Council has requested additional information from the Library Board periodically. So the Library Board will be presenting quarterly financial reports to the Township for information purposes. This is the first. It is to the end of March. There was some confusion apparently on the submission date for the previous council meeting, but we have got in this time and we now know what the firm dates are for submission. So henceforth, they will be on a quarterly period. And I will hand it over to our CEO, Carla Buckborough, to just go through any of the information. There is a variance report letter that's at the front of this to assist with council understanding where there may be some anomalies in the reports, but I will let Carla speak to those.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Linda. Carla, go ahead.
Thank you. So this is a new initiative, as Linda said, that we will be coming quarterly with our year-to-date actual to budget report. When I present this information, which is presented to the board every month through Keystone reports, we take a look at where we are at the end of each month. And so by the end of March, we should be about 25% spent on the library budget. And so that is what Linda, as a financial oversight officer, and I look at in terms of variances. And so what I've put on here, if you want to quickly pop down to the summary sheet, the next page. I'm sorry, that didn't come out very well. On the far right-hand side, it shows the budget percentage used and the, so it's the budget compared to actual. So when I take a look at that, I see telephone and hydro says 64% spent. Well, that is an anomaly, which I've identified on the first page of this, that hydro is now being taken over as a township paid expense instead of the library. But for the first 3 bills of the year, they went through the library account. That has been changed. And so the next reporting will show that being removed and the percentage change. The last one in the operating, just the virtual branch, 014286, that is showing at 33% spent. And on my variance report, I've explained that that's because some of our licenses are for the entire year and are paid up front. And so it's a little bit higher than the 25%. If you want to go back to the variance report, if you want to move down, please. Okay. As I put on here that the capital budget has not been changed in Keystone to reflect the motion made by council. Any changes required will be made by the next reporting, which I will bring in August, along with the adjusting entries for rollovers after I have confirmation from the auditors from the 2021 budget or audit. Our ICIP application is still active with the provincial and federal governments. And so that is why there is money set aside. And I think it's pretty neat that we have promises from the government for $68,000 towards this revisioning of the Bruce Johnston branch to make it a more open space and able to be used as a community hub. Do you have any questions? Or Linda, do you have anything to add?
No, other than just to say that there are some expenses that the library board has to meet that do not fit a nice level cash flow on a monthly basis. So you will see some anomalies, but in the reports, we will highlight the ones that look to be really outside of some minor variations.
Very good. Any questions from members of council for either Carla or Linda? on the finances? Seeing none. Oh, Deputy Mayor Graham, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor. Thank you for the report. One question I had, I'm sure there's a reasonable answer for this. The DC portion of revenues that the library receives, is there a lag time in receiving that for the library? And then I'm assuming that while we sort of wait with regards to the capital portion, that those funds would be used sort of as soon as they're received for materials. Is there some sort of consistency as to when the DC monies come in that they can be then spent?
Well, normally I assume that they come in when we have our capital budget approved. I had missed in the email from Kimberly Pope back in November, December, that when we changed how we are receiving our levy, that we got the first installment in December. That included the development charges so that we were able to begin using those for purchasing our materials. So it is reflected in the summary on the capital. Can you move to the next page, please? And scroll towards the bottom and then make it a little bigger. So it is showing, oops. It is showing there the $4,248 showing as township of CM funding for capital. That is the development charges. So it is showing that they are in our account and we are using that as our book or circulating material purchasing budget at the moment. As you can see down a few lines, it shows circulating materials, $1,700 spent. As I just said, I know that there's some questions regarding our capital funding from the township, and I have not decreased the budget amounts yet. I will make sure that everything is set up properly for August reporting.
Okay, so my question then, I saw those reflected. My question is, so of the 4,200, we've spent 1,700. Is there some catalyst for not having spent the remaining amount?
If I could, Carla, this is one of the accounts that doesn't have a nice, easy cash flow. And it's because publishers have some typically heavier publishing periods. So it's late spring, early summer, and then in the fall. So libraries traditionally do not have a lot of expenditure in the early part of the year, January and February, because the new book lists haven't come out at that point. And of course, with COVID and the issues with supply chain and publishing costs and paper costs, it's a little more erratic than it ever was in the past. So it's one of those things that, you know, when a new publication comes out, the staff have some of them on the list. They have an idea of what might be coming forward, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they can buy them at that point. So even though the funds are available, it's not a nice, easy cash flow. There are points in the year where you'll see some very heavy expenditures because of the publishing dates that will offset that. Carla, do you have anything to add?
Well, we are also spending very carefully, because if that's all the money we have for buying books, we are not wanting to spend it all at once, because our capital budget is our book budget. And so with the motion that was made by council holding it back, if that's all the money we have to spend, we are meting it out very carefully.
Very good. And it's certainly helpful now that we're doing these quarterly reports that we can see the flows in and out of the various budget items. It's certainly helpful. I mean, the obvious one for us is we deal with public works, and guess what? There's a huge expense for salt and sand and trucks all winter, and there's very little in the summer, but we understand that. So it's assisting council now to understand the flow in and out. That was an excellent explanation, Linda, on how the books work. So thank you. Any other questions from members of council? If not, very good. A motion then to receive that delegation, presentation. Deputy Mayor Graham, Councillor Shaw. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Shaw,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
and Deputy Mayor Graham.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Before you leave, Linda and Carla, thank you very much. We do have our meeting tomorrow night. I always bring forward during the council committee verbal reports the 3 top items for the library. And I've gone through my email. I apologize, I didn't give you the heads up. Do you remember what those 3 are for this month? Because I've gone through my emails and I can't find it. If you can recall, this is a trivia point. Can you recall from the last meeting what those 3 were?
They were in the minutes.
I
That
just
was
went
sent.
through it. I didn't see it.
Um,
My apologies if I've missed it.
I don't have them right off the top of my head. If you give me 2 seconds, I will see what I can find.
Perfect. Yeah, because otherwise I'm going to have a blank report. And I know we talked about them, Carla. I get it. I just can't find it. I usually have them from Glenn.
Do you want me to send them to?
Yes, please. If you can email those through to me, then I can have a beautiful report when it comes my turn.
All right, I will do that momentarily.
Thank you, Carla. Okay, moving along. Our next item, 9.1 minutes of the regular council meeting held May 2nd, 2022. Most of the minutes. We got Councillor Huntley and Councillor Belch. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Mayor McFadden,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Shaw,
Yes.
and Councillor Belch.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Next item, minutes from committees and boards. Millbrook Valley Trails Advisory Committee meeting minutes, March 28th, 2022. Motion for those minutes. Councillor Belch and Councillor Shaw. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Shaw,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden,
Yes.
and Councillor Huntley.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Apologies, sidetracked. All good. Next item, reports. 11.1, report planning 2022-28 Cameron subdivision Ida ZBA application ZBA-12-17 recommendation report. Ms. Ellis, and just so you're aware, Mr. Gay is available if there are any questions relative to this report. He is making himself available if there's any further questions beyond what I'll answer. Go ahead, Ms. Ellis.
Thank you, Mayor McFadden. Members of Council, Planning Report 2022-28 is before you today with the recommendation that bylaw number 2022-32 be approved to amend bylaw number 2018-58 as amended with regard to the land subject to draft approved plan of subdivision 15T15001 located at 1844 County Road 10 and part of Lot 12, Concession 10 of the Cavan Ward. The property subject to this application is also the subject of a plan of subdivision application, and council has seen this application and these lands before them on 2 previous occasions at a minimum. One, we held a public meeting to talk about the draft plan of subdivision and the rezoning, and then subsequent to that, we held another public meeting when there was an official plan amendment application. With the rezoning of the subject lands, map C2 to Schedule A will be amended. We're going to change that 15 lot plan of subdivision from the agricultural exception 16 zone to the Hamlet residential zone, from the future development zone to the Hamlet residential zone. The lands that are zoned natural linkage currently are going to remain so zoned, and the agricultural exception 16 zone that applies to the retained lands from the subdivision will remain zoned agricultural exception 16 with a minimum lot area requirement of 10 hectares. So this is one of the final stages for the approval of this plan of subdivision. As I've indicated, it does have draft plan approval. One of the conditions to be satisfied for those draft plan conditions is a rezoning of the subject lands. We do have a draft M plan that the zoning bylaw amendment has been based on, and there was a slight difference between the M plan and the draft plan of subdivision. The slight change in the lot sizes of 2 lots was those 2 lots had to be reconfigured to accommodate stormwater management, a drainage. It's not a swale, it's more than a swale, but it's a drainage easement. So we have heard previously from agencies, from township staff and members of the public, so there was no circulation at this time. In previous reports, we have mentioned that we did have objection at the last time we held a public meeting. That was people were concerned about the loss of agricultural land, the construction noise and dust, and the impact on rural lands. So With the approval of the plan of subdivision and the draft plan conditions, we are satisfied that this development should proceed as planned, and the zoning bylaw amendment before you today will implement those previous decisions.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Any questions from members of council? Seeing none, motion then to receive the report and accept the recommendation. Councillor Shaw and Councillor Belch, Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
and Councillor Shaw.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Next item 11.2, report planning 2022-30 Mount Pleasant Country Estates Incorporated subdivision pre-servicing agreement. Ms. Ellis?
Thank you, Mayor McFadden. Members of council, planning report 2022-30 is before you today with the recommendation that bylaw number 2022-28 be approved to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the pre-servicing agreement between Mount Pleasant Country Estates, Inc. and the Township of Cavan Monaghan. Again, this is a plan of subdivision in the hamlet of Mount Pleasant. This plan of subdivision has been approved with a number of conditions. The developer is working on satisfying those conditions, and they would like to get started with some on-site works prior to finalizing the plan of subdivision and the registration of that subdivision and subdivision agreement. In this regard, the township solicitor has prepared a pre-servicing agreement. This is a standard type of agreement that the township has entered into before. The agreement has been drafted in accordance with the requirements for the Mount Pleasant Country Estates development, and the conditions for signing have been satisfied by the developer. So in that regard, we are recommending to council today that the bylaw be approved to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign it so that work can get underway in terms of the installation of on-site services at the draft plan of subdivision site while we finalize all of the final paperwork for final registration.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Any questions from members of council? Seeing none, motion then to receive the report and accept the recommendation. Deputy Mayor Graham and Councillor Huntley. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Shaw,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
and Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is approved. Next, item 11.3, report planning 2022-31 Cameron subdivision IDA pre-servicing agreement. Ms. Ellis?
Mayor McFadden, members of council, planning report 2022-31 is before you today with the recommendation that bylaw number 2022-29 be approved to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the pre-servicing agreement between Ian Malcolm Cameron and the Township of Cavan Monaghan. This pre-servicing agreement is similar to the last issue that we just dealt with. We do have a draft plan approval for the development of a 15-lot plan of subdivision in IDA. In this particular case, the developer is working on satisfying all the conditions. They are not as far along as the Mount Pleasant Country Estates, but are moving quite quickly and are very much interested in doing some on-site works. We are still waiting for some clearance letters, but there is a plan in place and the developer knows what they have to do and are working on satisfying that. So in order to keep this file moving, we are bringing this to you today so that we can have the mayor and clerk sign the agreement as soon as those conditions are satisfied. And in that way, we're not, I hate to use the word, we're not a slave to the council schedule. So we're trying to keep things moving. So I can assure you that both the Director of Public Works and the Planning Department will ensure that all conditions outlined in the pre-servicing agreement will be satisfied prior to asking the mayor and clerk to sign the agreement.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Any questions from members of council? Seeing none, motion then to receive the report and accept the recommendation. We got Deputy Mayor Graham and Councillor Belch. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Shaw,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Next, item 11.4, report planning 2022-32, first quarter activity report, building economic development and planning. Mr. Conley.
How are you, Your Worship? To your worship to council, you have before you planning report 2022-32, first quarter activity report, building economic development and planning. The recommendation that council receive report planning 2022-32, first quarter activity, building economic development and planning for information. Again, as an overview, this is part of our quarterly report at year end, report series that we provide to council with respect to building permit activity, economic development, as well as planning applications, and presenting that on a consolidated basis. Attachment number 1 to the report is a summary of building department statistics, and this is being generated using our cloud permit system, which is on the building permit side. And this is a good one because it shows first year over year when we started to introduce and use cloud permit for this purpose last year. So what this does is it shows the number of building permits issued. And in this case, for the first quarter of 22, the number of permits issued is up slightly from 32 to 39. But by contrast, only 4 new single family dwellings were created in the first quarter of 22 versus 12 for the same period in 2021. Building permit fees for the first quarter are $42,978 versus $64,002 for the same period for 2021, which represents a decrease in about 33%. At the same time, this activity translates into a total development fees of $88,313 on total construction value of $5.282967 million, and that's for the same period of 22. Again, one of the things I'd like to remind council is that the first quarter of each year is usually a slow one. So although the numbers are down, we are comfortable that we are starting to track close to what we projected in our budget for this year of $200,000 in permit revenue for the year. And that was in the 2022 budget that council approved earlier this year. Going further and looking to the table, this would be page number 2, if you could. Table number 1 gives a breakdown of economic development planning inquiries. Thank you. In that, we look at year over year of the first quarter of 2021 versus 2022. No surprise that we have an increase in the number of land use inquiries. Remind council that when we track land use inquiries, that's the specific unique properties. It isn't the number of inquiries per specific property. In this market, with respect to real estate, it's not uncommon to get half a dozen or more, even up to 10 or 12 per property. So again, maintaining its very busy schedule from not only 21, but if I were to track and present for the first quarter of 2020, you'll see that that's exceeded that as well. So looking at the first quarter alone, number of land use inquiries up marginally from 161 to 172. Legal requests are also up, pretty much almost doubled. The only thing that's down a little bit is preliminary severance reviews. Again, the first part of the year, first quarter, it's a little bit slower in some cases, but notwithstanding that, we've outperformed 2021. And that was actually setting a record from the previous year of 2020. In the last part of the report, we've broken down the 172 land use inquiries by ward for Cavan, Millbrook, and North Monaghan, and that's in the table as part of the report. On top of that, there are 14 active planning applications. Of that, 4 commercial industrial applications, 10 are zoning bylaw amendments, minor variances, plans of subdivision or condominium, consent applications, and official plan amendments and site plan approvals for residential purposes. Again, a reminder, part of the mix here is that we also have 2 approved minister zoning orders that we're working with the proponents and applicants with bringing that out through the work involved with respect to those zoning orders. And again, one of the things I would just like to indicate to council is that, again, this is the strong economy that's happened locally. We haven't seen a dip, as I've read in a lot of certainly periodicals across the GTA, with an increase of mortgages, mortgage rates, inflation, those type of things. We haven't seen a slowdown with respect to the market yet. I do expect to see that in the second quarter, but notwithstanding that, we still have a lot of work. Not to mention the 2 minister zoning orders that were approved. And then later on, at the last council meeting, we had proposed, or actually legislative changes now, approved legislative changes with respect to Bill 109 and the More Homes bill. And what that will mean is a revision and streamlining of the planning approvals process on a number of fronts. That's to come later on this year. And again, our hope is to start work very quickly on the Tower Hill North plan of subdivision and some of the works associated with that and associated with the fire hall as well. If council has any questions, I'm happy to provide any answers I can.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Connolly, for the thorough report. Questions from members of council? None. Motion to receive and accept the recommendation. Deputy Mayor Graham, Councillor Shaw. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Mayor McFadden,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Shaw,
Yes.
and Councillor Belch.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Thank you very much, Mr. Connolly.
Thank you.
Next item, 11.5, report ECD 2022-05, event road occupancy permit delegation of authority for 1-year pilot project, Ms. Aya.
Thank you, Mayor McFadden. To members of council, the report before council is the event road occupancy permit delegation of authority, ECD 2022-05, with the recommendation that council authorize the execution of the memorandum of understanding between the Corporation of the Township of Cavan-Monaghan and the Corporation of the County of Peterborough for a one-year pilot project of delegation of authority for event or road occupancy permits on county roads within the Millbrook urban area.
Very good. Questions from members of council? Councillor Huntley.
Through you, Chair. Do we already have the road occupancy for most of the events that are going on this year? Like, would this only apply now to any that came in after the fact at this point?
Through you, Mayor McFadden, to Councillor Huntley. We don't as of yet, because I was just holding off until the delegation of authority came through, just to make it a little easier for us and for the applicants. That being said, we have had conversations with the county, and I made them aware of what I was doing. So we don't anticipate any issues with the upcoming events, particularly the one on June 4th, which I'm sure is the reason for your question.
That it was.
Yeah.
Very good. Any other questions for Ms. Hyatt? Seeing none. Motion. Oh, go ahead, Deputy Mayor Graham.
No problem. Thank you, Mayor. Question with regards to, it's my understanding that in the conversation with the county, this is something that's been long pursued by the township. Ms. Hyatt, I just wondered if you could speak to, it was my understanding when I spoke with the CEO of the county that, a part of the reason it's a one-year trial is that, they're with the timing and sequence of the transportation master plan at the county, that they'd like to have some of the due diligence from this sort of initial offering to reflect and inform that document, which will potentially formally delegate this authority so we don't have the issues moving forward. Is that your understanding from the conversations you've had with the county?
It is. Through you, Mayor McFadden, to Deputy Mayor Graham. That is my understanding. Right now, we're just trying to kind of streamline some of our event permitting process, but it is part of a bigger conversation that is happening as part of the transportation master plan. So I think the data collected as part of this pilot project will help inform those conversations that will go forward, I believe, next year.
Just a follow up, Mayor.
Go ahead.
In your experience, Bridget, is there what would be a catalyst or a justification that there might be, to not supporting that delegation authority from a municipal standpoint, in your opinion? Even in the county report, it was seemingly communicated as just a duplicity of, process. So I just was kind of curious if there's a local understanding as to what the catalyst might be to withhold that, because it sounds as though it's been a multi-year project to get to where we are now, and I don't really understand it.
Through you, Mayor McFadden, to Deputy Mayor Graham. I'm not sure I completely understand the question. I can tell you some of the challenges we've had in the past, and predominantly it kind of centers on the filming process. So there have been applications for filming special event permits that our application mimics that of the county.
Mm-hmm.
So there's two forms that they have to fill out. And it's the exact same information. It's the exact same requirements for insurance. So in some cases we've said, okay, we're ready to go. And then we've had to wait on the county to process the application, and it's kind of come through last minute. Not for anybody's fault, it's just timing and so that has kind of prompted the conversation. We do a lot of filming, we do a lot of events, maybe more so than some of the other townships. I shouldn't say that, but I think we have a fairly big volume. So I think, if there's going to be challenges in timing, I think it's going to occur more with us than it is with maybe the other townships. I'm not sure if I've answered your question.
I think I phrased it wrong, Bridget. Let me try again. How much of a simpler and a more supportive of economic development process would it be to permanently have this delegated to the municipality? And from your perspective, as that's your role, would it make your life easier is kind of the question.
Through you, Mayor McFadden, to Deputy Mayor Grant, absolutely. Absolutely make my life a whole lot easier, because I don't have to, I just take care of my own work, and then I don't have to kind of monitor somebody else's, you know, and constantly remind them, you know, have you got that permit? Have you got that permit? We've got this event coming up. It's only me that I have to worry about, and some of the other people in our office, which is a whole lot easier than outside agencies.
Thank you.
Very good. And it's okay, Ms. Ayat, to blow your own horn and knock it out of the park. The permits that go through for road occupancy, sometimes you get lots of advance notice, but I do recall a concert that we held on a roof of a downtown building that you pulled together in a week. And that's a lot of coordination when you have multiple levels of government. And even within the county, there was different divisions within the county that needed to be coordinated with. So I'm sure you can appreciate the streamlining of the process, and it continues to permit you to efficiently get those permits and everything in place so that we can continue to knock it out of the park in our downtown.
Thank you, Mayor McFadden. I had actually blocked that event out.
Yes, we do all remember that one. That was fun. Any other questions for Ms. Ayat? If not, a motion then to receive this report and accept the recommendation. We got Councillor Shaw and Deputy Mayor Graham. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Shaw,
Yes.
Councillor Belch.
It would appear he has
He's
stepped
gone.
out
Yeah,
momentarily.
No problem. Mayor McFadden,
Yes,
Councillor Huntley.
Yes.
motion is approved. Once again, thank you very much, Ms. Ayat. Our next report, Public Works 2022-11, former Millbrook Correctional Facility groundwater investigation update. Mr. Hancock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to council, this report has 3 recommendations. First recommendation, that council receive Public Works Report 2022-11 as information. Second recommendation, that council direct staff to continue to work with the Ministry of Environment and Conservation and Parks, ECP, and Infrastructure Ontario to ensure testing continues at the former correctional facility and the municipal wells beyond 2023. And the council requests in writing to be notified of a stage 3 circulation, as we have expressed a formal interest on the property. Just to council, a couple of, this is an ongoing report. It has been an information report for several years, and just recently senior staff met with ministry and IO staff members, and we were advised that they will continue testing on a quarterly basis, both on the IO wells, test wells as we call them, and at the municipal wells by the Ministry of Environment, or MECP, for 2022 through to early part of 2023. Our concern has been, and I think we've made council aware of it, is that we would have some continued bad results, and that's not occurred in the reports that we're getting from IO. Most of the wells are testing clean or very limited, if any, contaminants in the wells. So the concern is sort of dying a bit with the Ministry of Environment. We expect at some point they'll take the position that the IO has done their due justice on this property and will probably not be doing any further testing. That is not the case at this present time, and we will report in the early part of 2023 to bring council up to speed on what's happening at that point in time with the results from this year and that early part. So we're bringing this report forward, just recognizing that they are continuing to do the testing and that we are continuing to work with them and with our legal people to sort of protect ourselves in the long distance future on our municipal wells. And I think you'll note, usually I have Mike Bingham on this call with me. Mike has decided to move north and go to work at a mine in Northern Ontario. So good for Mike, and he's not with me on this call as he has been our peer review technical person and has worked with us a long time. So we will miss him, but he has moved on to another job. And so if there is some technical questions that we're not able to answer, we certainly can refer them to Cambie and staff because they are still available.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Hancock. Any questions from members of council? If not, then a motion to receive the report and accept the recommendation. Councillor Shaw, Deputy Mayor Graham, Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
and Councillor Shaw.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Next, thank you, Mr. Hancock. Next report,
Thank you.
Corporate Services 2022-06, Council Remuneration Bylaw.
Before you, council, is Report Corporate Services 2022-06 with a recommendation that council approve bylaw number 2022-30, being a bylaw to set the remuneration and expenses for the members of council or for a local board.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Page. I was going to bring something forward and decided not to. So if there's any other questions from other members of council with regards to the remuneration report, we do it at the end of every term of council. I would entertain a motion to receive the report and accept the recommendation. Deputy Mayor Graham, Councillor Huntley, Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Shaw,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden,
Yes. Motion is approved. Next item, 11.8, Report CAO 2022-06, Collective Agreement QP 1306-2, Public Works. Ms. Brewer.
Good afternoon, Mayor McFadden and Council. We have two recommendations before you this afternoon. One is that Council approve the collective agreement between the Township of Cavan-Monaghan and Canadian Union of Public Employees, Local 1306-2, which is our Public Works Department, from April 2022 to March 2025. The second recommendation is that bylaw number 2022-34, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of the collective agreement between the Township of Cavan-Monaghan and the Canadian Union Public Employees and its Local 1306-2 Public Works be approved. Those are the two recommendations before you today. I do honestly would like to thank the team, the management team that took place, and definitely the Roads Department, Public Works Department for this negotiation process. It went extremely well and I think very fair. And I'm very pleased to have those two recommendations before council today.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Hurley. You took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say a thank you to both sides in the negotiations and coming to this agreement. And I look forward to council having this discussion and moving forward. Questions, comments from the rest of the members of council? None. Motion to receive the report and accept the recommendation. Deputy Mayor Graham and Councillor Huntley. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Shaw,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
and Deputy Mayor Graham.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Once again, thank you, Ms. Hurley.
Thank you.
Next item, 11.9, report CAO report and capital status. Ms. Hurley.
The report is before council. If you have any questions, we're certainly here to answer your questions. But I don't have anything additional to report on at this time.
Very good. Excellent. Questions from members of council or comments with regards to the current project status? None. Motion to receive. Councillor Belch and Councillor Shaw. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Mayor McFadden,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Shaw,
Yes.
and Councillor Belch.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Next item, council committee verbal reports. I'll start at the top the way you're listed. Councillor Belch.
At this time, this Thursday, Ganaraska is going to have a sort of a regular monthly meeting. It's at 7:15 in the evening. And the only other thing is that right now, the Municipal Revitalization Committee that was supposed to happen got canceled.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Belch. Deputy Mayor Graham.
Through you, Mayor. We haven't had a meeting, but it's worth mentioning and thanking all those who attended the Millbrook Valley Trails Work Day last Saturday. We had a large number of volunteers, which was great to see people back out and helping who have been enjoying the trails, of young and old, of all different tenures in the community. So it was a really great event. And a lot of work was done that was much needed because of the amount of traffic on the trails, but the weather was perfect. So we were able to get a lot of the works done. So thanks to everyone who volunteered, and obviously the Millbrook Valley Trails committee for all of the work and coordination that they did. Also wanted to especially mention, I think I may have mentioned this before, but I was actually able to, or charged, I don't know if I did it well or not, but charged with the responsibility of hanging some owl boxes that were created from Centennial Place. So I'll be sending an email and a letter of thanks on behalf of council to Centennial Place and showing them where they're up. And so you'll see them around there. I expect criticisms and judgment. I am not a professional owl box hanger, and it's fairly high up on the ladder for one individual, but health and safety was upheld, and hopefully we see some owls in there.
Very good. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Graham and Councillor Huntley.
I guess the only thing I really have to report is that the BIA event, the Kick Off the Summer, is on June 4th coming up. I believe you have volunteered to partake in a dunk tank, if I remember that correctly.
Absolutely. We have quite the team, and I've extended the invitation to each of you. I don't want to steal all the fun.
Thank you for your participation. I've already bought my tickets.
You know what? It's good when council can be there to support one another. And on that note too, the monies that are generated, I know our Chief Belfour is spearheading the other team, and any funds raised for dunking me and the rest of my team will be going towards the Millbrook Legion.
Excellent.
And finally, I do have a library report. Just bring it up here. The three items from the takeaways from the last meeting was that the library would present at council today. So that's a given. We've already done that. Number two was we reviewed and passed a policy with regards to libraries and political elections, which is a standard report, has to come forward relative to what they can and cannot do during that election period. And so that has been passed. And finally, it was a very successful March break. 64 new members joined the library during March. Most of them signed up during the March break. 182 people participated in the March break activity. So that was wonderful to see so many people out. I think with things starting to open back up, I think everybody's looking for that opportunity to get out, and clearly they took advantage of the opportunities that were at the library during the March break. So that was a good thing. So unless there's anything further, just a quick question, Councillor Huntley, and I apologize if I've cut off guard. Next meeting is fine. Is there a timeline relative to the replacement of the CEO for Orca? I know there was A, the timeline for retirement, but B, the timeline to fill in. And if you can't release that at this time, that's totally understood, but don't mind.
No, absolutely. We're in week 3 or week 4, I want to say, of a 12-week replacement program. So it's still in the process of collecting information, and the recruitment agency that has been retained is in the screening process now to start to get together a long list to present to the recruitment committee. So we are hoping to have a new CIO or CAO in place before July, so that there's a month of transition with the existing CAO.
Very good. Excellent. Just wondering too, because does lame duck kick in with conservation authorities like it does municipal councils, and whether or not that would affect the employment of a CAO? I didn't know.
Interesting question. I do not have an answer for you.
But it sounds like your timelines are well in advance, so you should be fine.
Yeah.
Good. Excellent. Any other questions, comments for members of council? If not, a motion then to receive those verbal reports. Deputy Mayor Graham, Councillor Shaw, Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Shaw,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden,
Yes.
and Councillor Huntley.
Yes.
Motion is approved. There is no general business, no correspondence for information, no correspondence for actions. We'll move right into bylaws, and we have quite the list. So when I'm done, I would expect that I'll get a motion to support them because I don't want to read them a second time. So item 15.1 being bylaw number 2022-28, being a bylaw authorize the execution of the pre-servicing agreement between Mount Pleasant Country Estates and the Township of Cav-Monaghan. And bylaw number 2022-29 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a pre-servicing agreement between Ian Malcolm Cameron and the Township of Cav-Monaghan. And bylaw number 2022-30 being a bylaw to set the remuneration and expenses of the members of council or a local board, and bylaw number 2022-31 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a memorandum of understanding between the corporation of the Township of Monaghan and the corporation of the County of Peterborough for a one-year pilot project, delegation of authority for event road occupancy permits on county roads within the Millbrook urban area, and bylaw number 2022-32, the Cameron Duguay ZBA, and bylaw number 2022-33, 1470 County Road 10 Public Works Operations Center ZBA, and bylaw number 2022-34 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a collective agreement between the Township of Monaghan and the Canadian Union of Public Employees and its local 1306-2, and bylaw number 2022-35 being a bylaw to accept paper title to the lands occupied by a portion of the public highway known as Morton Line and to terminate an old merger agreement related thereto. Be read a first, second, third time, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the corporate seal attached thereto. Deputy Mayor is moving, seconded by Councillor Belch. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Mayor McFadden, can you start at bylaw 2022-28 again?
Thank you, Ms. Page, for the humor. No, I will not.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
and Councillor Shaw.
Yes.
Motion is approved. I thought you were going to comment that you couldn't hear me, that my mic wasn't working, and I did legitimately need to repeat it.
Oh, that would have been better if I had been on my toes. I would have been better prepared for that one.
Absolutely. There is no unfinished business. There is no notices of motion. So we'll move into our confirming bylaw, being bylaw number 2022-36, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the meeting held May 16, 2022, be read a first, second, third time, signed by the mayor and the clerk and the corporate. Councillor Huntley. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
All kidding aside, Mayor McFadden, you did cut out this time. So can you match what that had have been the other time? Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Shaw,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
and Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is approved, and it did not include additional items on your work evaluation performance stuff. You're good.
Thank you, Mayor
Item
McFadden.
is the motion to adjourn. Everybody, so it's loud and clear. We got a motion to adjourn. We got Councillor Huntley and Councillor Belch. Recorded vote.
And then you cut
Didn't
it
quite catch that.
again.
Yeah.
Councillor Shaw,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
and Deputy Mayor Graham.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Upcoming events, we have the Cavan Monaghan Public Library Board meeting Tuesday, May 17th, tomorrow night, 7 p.m. And it is in person at the Millbrook Branch Library. Municipal Revitalization and Heritage Advisory Committee meeting, also known as Mr. Hack, is Thursday, May 19th, 2022 via Zoom.
Mayor
Over
McFadden,
That's
just to
canceled.
interrupt, I apologize. That has been canceled, but this wasn't canceled prior to this being posted, so I apologize.
Gotcha.
That meeting
And-
has
and
been
if-
canceled.
And if I was listening to Councillor Belch, I would have already known that. Sorry, Councillor Belch, you did say that.
That's okay.
And next item, the Millbrook Valley Trails Advisory Committee meeting, Monday, May 30th, 2022 at 5 p.m. via Zoom. And next regular council meeting will be Monday, June 6th, 2022 via Zoom. And of course, last but not least, we have June 9th to 12th is the annual Millbrook Fair. We're all very excited to see that. It's been a couple of years since we've had that, so all excitement. And Councillor Huntley, remind me of your date when I'm going to get dunked.
June 4th.
June 4th. Excellent. We're all looking forward to that event as well.